Yabona woman.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll go down.
Could be the moment.
It's running a little late, but we are waiting for the outgoing Public Protector Thuli Madosela to release her last batch of investigation reports. She'll also be updating the public on progress in respect of some other investigations. So it's been a busy day, but we do know that indications are that the parties that were wanting to interdict the release of the report into state capture, they've agreed that that matter will be postponed to the 1st of November. And so that report will not be released today. However, we are just waiting for confirmation on that date, but it looks as though the 1st of November will be the time when that interdict will go to court, and that order also includes President Zuma's application for the interdict against that report into state capture. So just waiting for things to get settled there, but we are expecting her to release that last batch of investigative reports.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to the members of the media. Good afternoon to colleagues. Welcome to Public Protector South Africa, and thank you for coming to our media briefing. My name is Kalalelo Masibi, and I'm the spokesperson for the Public Protector, and I shall be chairing this afternoon's session. Firstly, I would like to apologize that we're running way behind schedule, and also thank you for understanding that we were not able to start on time. And as usual, I will start by introducing the panel. Next to me is Advocate Luisa Zondo, the Chief Executive Officer here at Public Protector South Africa. And next to the CEO is the Outgoing Public Protector, Advocate Thuli Madosela. Next to Advocate Madonsela is the Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Kevin Malunga. As usual, we have our own housekeeping rules. We will allow you to ask questions at the end of the session, and we'll also afford you the opportunity to do one-on-one interviews with the panel. And we will close today's session with closing remarks by the CEO. But before I hand over to the Public Protector to address you, I will give the Deputy the opportunity to address you and maybe explain why we were running behind schedule today.
Thanks a lot, Program Director Ms. Masibi. This is the final day in a very epic 7 years of Madonsela's term of office, and the fact that there's so much attention as we're seeing today, this media scrum, as I'd like to call it, is indicative of the level of interest that the institution now generates and the level of trust that the institution now generates. Part of the reason why we are late is because we had a meeting with the incoming Public Protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, where we discussed a number of issues such as logistics for her taking over this hot seat. We also discussed with her the challenges faced by the institution. We discussed with her the successes of the institution. But by and large, there is more good than bad that has come out of this institution. And certainly more good than bad will continue to come out of this institution as an institution supporting democracy. So I just want to also thank you and then also thank the Public Protector team that you never see, because this is the leadership of. There are the people sitting, some of them here at the back of the room, some of them sitting in their offices upstairs, who actually are the engine room, who get the work done. And Advocate Madonsela has been a stellar captain. She has walked the talk. I know she's probably going to shed a tear at some point later today, but they didn't sleep last night working on that other thing that you were all waiting for. But that's the nature of the passion that people put into this institution. We are generating a lot of interest across the African continent, across the world, saying, how do you guys do it? And we will continue doing it in terms of putting this country first, putting the people of this country first, and good governance, clean governance. It's all in the Constitution. It's not something that we are dreaming up. And so on my own personal behalf, she has been a sister to me. She's not my aunt. I've got a sister her age. You see? People say your aunt. No. She has been a very good colleague. It has been an opportunity to see this institution rise to what it is today, and we hope that we have expressed full confidence in Advocate Mkhwebane as she takes over. And on Monday, there will be festivities and things that we'll be doing to ensure that that goes across seamlessly. And I think over to Outgoing Madonsela. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Protector. Thank you all, and our apology. Thank you to the spokesperson. It is a privilege to present the last batch of reports that will go under my signature as the Pub Protector of South Africa. As you all know, my term ends today at midnight. It has been an epic journey, as the Deputy Pub Protector has said, but that was made possible by the spirit of the team. I will miss this team. Epic may have two meanings. For us, it means a team that is ethical, a team that is impactful. Well, a team that is ethical, purposive, impactful, and committed. And that you come across at all levels, whether you're dealing with our security people at the doors, or you're dealing with our CEO who just joined us and hit the ground running, and ultimately our co-captain, the Deputy Pub Protector, whom I'm eternally grateful for his frankness, his collegiality, and his leadership. Today we are releasing 5 reports, but before releasing them, I thought I would read for you a letter I received this morning. It says, "Dear Advocate Thuli Madosela and team," and underline the part that it is "and team." I'm writing this letter to show my family's appreciation and gratitude for the many men and women who have committed themselves to serving us as citizens when we lay complaints with your office. On and around 2012, we wrote to your office requesting help after almost going everywhere and being ignored regarding our hijacked buildings. Your office ruled on 18/12/2014 on a life-changing report titled Broken Promises. Although the city has not completed the implementation of the remedial action, our lives have changed and we are on our way to good recovery. With already a B&B business opening soon in KwaZulu-Natal. We would like to thank you and the entire team for work well done. We hope to resume our shoe business again soon upon finalizing with the city on this matter. We pray that many more South Africans that come to your office may receive satisfying results like we did, and pray that God may reward you, all of you, with wisdom, health, and prosperity. In closing, we pray that you may continue to be a blessing, not only to us, but to many people in whatever you do for the rest of your lives. As you can see, this letter is written to all of us at the Pub Protector South Africa. And we've always said that we make the impact we make purely because of our purposeful approach to the work and our commitment. It doesn't mean we don't drop any balls. But if it ever happens, it's because you're human. It's not because we don't care. It's not because we don't know that our job is to protect the public from improper conduct in the exercise of state power and control of our public resources. The first report I'm releasing today is titled Collateral Damage. It is a report about a whistleblower. She was the CEO or Chief Executive Officer of the Estate Agency Affairs Board. She was suspended and eventually fired after she started investigating what she thought was improper conduct by some of the estate agencies. It turned out that at the time, one of the affected parties was a member of the board and later was an ex-board member. She was never given any warning. She was never given a disciplinary hearing. She was fired just like that. When we investigated this matter, we asked ourselves whether the board was properly constituted. Secondly, whether the board improperly suspended the complainant. Thirdly, whether the complainant was improperly dismissed. And fourthly, whether the complainant's dismissal was on the instructions of the Minister of Trade and Industry as alleged by her. And lastly, whether the board victimized the complainant for pursuing and uncovering abuse of funds by estate agents. The findings are, on the first one, I find that the board was not properly constituted. On the second one, I find that the EAA board improperly suspended the complainant. On the third one, I find that the complainant was improperly dismissed. On the fourth issue, though, on whether or not she was dismissed on the instructions of the Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister Rob Davis, I'm saying the evidence we have found does not substantiate that allegation. And on the last one, on whether the board victimized the complainant for pursuing and uncovering abuse of funds by estate agents, my finding is that a complaint is justified. Because she was eventually paid out, I have not requested that she be reinstated. I have made 2 orders regarding remedial action. The first one is an apology to the complainant for the terrible way in which she was treated. And the second one is that the system must be fixed in terms of how complaints are handled and how whistleblowers are handled. Incidentally, as a Public Protector South Africa, we have picked up over the years that we really need to do something about whistleblower protection. Just starting from educating people about the role of whistleblowers and the requirement of the Protected Disclosures Act. And lastly, that consideration be given to amending the Act. The second report is called Unreasonable Accommodation. It is really a brief report about somebody who was employed by the University of Pretoria and eventually complained that there was undue delay in the processing and submission of her application for ill health retirement.
She also complained that the university had unfairly refused to approve her application for paid sick leave, and that the university improperly discontinued its contribution towards the complainant's provident fund. I also investigated whether the university was wrong in confirming the complainant's date of ill health retirement as 8th February 2008, and whether the university lastly failed to ensure that she received the benefits owed to her, and lastly, if she suffered prejudice. Generally, my findings are that there wasn't really undue delay. It is the manner in which the university processed the request, in that they kept extending additional benefits that were not supported by policy to the complainant, and in the end created some kind of expectation. Because then they didn't follow prescripts, I have made a finding that there was maladministration in the manner in which the university handled this matter, and in the process created expectations it could not meet. Regarding allegations of termination, improper termination of the complainant services, I found that the university didn't do any wrong, in that the procedure it followed was correct. Regarding the unfair refusal or alleged unfair refusal to approve the complainant's application for paid sick leave, I have found that the university's conduct again was proper because its exercise of its discretion was done judiciously. But I think because of the first way in which the university handled the complainant's case, there was a lot of distrust that was created. And in the end, whatever the university did, the complainant was justifiably unhappy. Regarding whether or not the university improperly discontinued its contribution towards the retirement or provident fund of the complainant and medical fund, again, I'm not finding any improper conduct. And then lastly, on whether the university failed to ensure that the complainant received the benefits owed to her in terms of the rules of the fund and the complainant's condition of service, I again find that the university did not conduct itself improperly, but again, the issues of trust created a misunderstanding. Regarding the allegation that the university failed to appoint a panel to deal with the complainant's claim, I find that the university did fail to appoint the requisite panel, and because of that, the complainant was prejudiced, and that the university's conduct does constitute maladministration. The appropriate remedial action is that the principal and human resources should issue guidelines to ensure that leave is properly regulated, and the principal and human resources should also make sure that the rules are followed, and whatever expenditure that was spent without following the rules should be regularized because it wasn't the complainant's mistake. You ask me, why am I issuing this report? It's because the complainant was really vexed. She really thought that she was handled badly by the university, and we did try to conciliate and mediate this matter, and the complainant was adamant that the university wronged him. And we do think that the first part, the university didn't handle it properly. In trying to be compassionate, it broke its own rules, and in the end, a trust deficit was created. Life on a Pause is the third report I am releasing today. The report starts with a quote that says, "There can be no daily democracy without daily citizenship." by Ralph Nader. Life on a Pause is basically about a man who for many years was trying to get his citizenship confirmed by the Department of Home Affairs after his family moved to Zimbabwe when he was small. The whole report basically details our going backwards and forwards to get this matter dealt with properly. And basically, the remedial action at this stage is simply to give him an apology, because he does want an apology, because his life was on a pause. Why he needed citizenship, it was because his children needed at the end to be able to go to university, getting a bursary through things such as NSFAS and other bursary privileges that are only extended to citizens. And he couldn't find a job because of the manner in which the process was handled. I remember that eventually we even had to do DNA tests to prove that he was who he claimed he was, because it was botched so badly, and they kept just botching it at different stages. But he has been sorted out. At some stage he was camping at our offices because this was affecting his children, his wife, and himself very badly. But it's sorted out right now. What we do hope, though, is that nobody suffers the same fate again. The last one is mega irregularities. It is just a report about the way the Mpumalanga Economic Growth Agency Board, which is called the Mega Board, handled the exit of one of its directors. And basically, we are saying that the issues are whether the resignation of one of the board members was irregular, and whether the MEC unlawfully dissolved the board, and whether the board failed to make regular transfer of funds. And the resignation of the board chairperson, I find that it was irregular, in that she wasn't allowed to serve the stipulated notice. Whether the board was unlawfully dissolved, I say yes, because the MEC just decided to dissolve the board. And lastly, I find that the department failed to the allegation that the department failed to make regular transfer of funds to the mega account, though, is not substantiated. But it's an issue there of executive interference in state-owned entities, usually state-owned enterprises. Again, you think it's not important, but we come across these things, and they are worth looking into and dealing with. My last report is called Stop the Carnage. It is a report on Cliplands. You will recall that at the beginning of last year, we went to Cliplands because people were being killed, and people invited us to come there and mediate and restore some kind of peace. At the time we were invited, it was some professors from the University of KwaZulu-Natal that had seen too many killings, to the point that they were now threatening to take us to international platforms. I remember the letter from Professor McCoy Mason, the president of the Commonwealth Legal Education Association, in which he lodged the complaint and threatened us. We went there, we conciliated among the residents, and we also promised the residents to find out what was going on there, and why were the killings, and why nobody had been convicted, despite the fact that at the time we got involved, about 50 people had been killed. The issues we investigate were whether the eThekwini municipality administered the Cliplands hostel in accordance with the laws and the applicable policies and prescripts, and if not, whether such constitutes maladministration. The second issue was whether the handling of the security situation at the Cliplands hostel by the security cluster accorded with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and the law, and if not, whether such amounted to maladministration. Lastly, we asked whether the Department of Social Development fulfilled its mandate in relation to the victims and survivors of the Cliplands hostile violence, and if not, whether such failure. In arriving at the findings, I have been guided by the standard approach adopted by the Protector South Africa, which involves asking what happened, what should have happened. Is there a discrepancy between what happened and what should have happened? If there is a discrepancy, does it amount to maladministration or improper conduct? If there is indeed maladministration or improper conduct, what would the appropriate remedial action be? As it is customary, the question regarding what happened is resolved through effectual inquiry, relying on the evidence provided by the parties and independently sourced during the investigation. In this particular case, the effectual inquiry focused on whether and to what extent the relevant state institutions fulfilled the responsibilities in ensuring that normalcy was restored to the Cliplands hostel. The question regarding what should have happened focused on the law and the rules that regulate the standard that should have been upheld by the state institutions to prevent maladministration and prejudice. And of course, the investigation, as all others, involved inspections in local, going to the hostel, having meetings with the security cluster, meetings with the complainants, interviews with residents at the hostel, including those that were involved in the fights and killing of each other. We obviously use the Constitution to assess whether or not the standards that should have been upheld were upheld. Among the sections that we use were Section 152 of the Constitution that provides that the objects of local government are to ensure the provision of services to communities in a sustainable manner, to promote a safe and healthy environment. We also looked at Section 4.2 of the Local Government Municipal Systems Act, which provides that municipal council has a duty to A, strive to ensure that municipal services are provided to the local community in a financially sustainable manner, and give members of the local community equitable access to the municipal services to which they are entitled, to promote a safe and healthy environment in the municipality. And the eThekwini municipality and hostel policy provides for, among other things, the implementation of an effective access control, the signing of lease agreements, the regularization of occupancy and payment of rent, and the control of trading within hostels. There are several other statutes that we held them to. I'm going to jump that and then say what are our findings regarding whether the eThekwini municipality administered the Cliplands hostel in accordance with the law and the applicable policies and prescript, and if not, whether such amounts to maladministration. My finding is that the eThekwini municipality failed to promote a safe and healthy environment within the Cliplands hostel, as required by Section 182 1D of the Constitution and envisioned in its own hostel policy as approved in 1998. B, the eThekwini municipality failed to give members of the local community equitable access to the municipal services to which they are entitled to. And C, the eThekwini municipality failed to provide services to the Cliplands hostel community in a financially and environmentally sustainable manner, as required by Section 182 1B of the Constitution and Section 24D of the Local Government Municipal Systems Act. The failure by the eThekwini municipality as outlined above constitutes improper conduct as envisaged in Section 182 1 of the Constitution and maladministration as envisaged in Section 64A1 of the Protector Act. B, regarding whether the handling of the security situation at Cliplands hostel by the security cluster accorded with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and the law, and if not, whether such amounted to maladministration. My finding is that the South African Police Service failed to live to the object to prevent, combat and investigate crime, to maintain public order, to protect and secure the residents of the Cleveland Hostel and their property, and to uphold and enforce the law as required by Section 2053 of the Constitution. The South African Police Service failed to uphold the rights of the Cleveland's residents to be free from all forms of violence as enshrined in Section 12(1)(c) of the Constitution. C. The failure by the South African Police Service, as outlined above, constitutes improper conduct as envisaged in Section 182(1) of the Constitution, and maladministration as envisaged in Section 64(a)(1) of the Power Protector Act. The eThekwini Metropolitan Police Service failed in its role to prevent crime at the hostel as required by Section 64(e) of the South African Police Service Act of 1995, and that failure constitutes improper conduct as envisaged in Section 182(1) of the Constitution, and maladministration as envisaged in Section 64(a)(1) of the Power Protector Act. Lastly, regarding whether the Department of Social Development fulfilled its mandate in relation to the victims and survivors of the Cleveland's hostile violence, if not, whether such failure amounted to maladministration, my finding is that the Department of Social Development failed to fulfill its responsibility to the victims of the Cleveland's hostile violence as required by Section 27(1)(c) of the Constitution, and this is contrary to its policy on social relief of distress. The failure by the Department of Social Development, as outlined above, constitutes improper conduct as envisaged in Section 182(1) of the Constitution, and maladministration as envisaged in Section 64(a)(1) of the Power Protector Act. The appropriate remedial action I'm taking in pursuit of Section 182(1)(c) of the Constitution, with a view to placing the victims as close as possible to where they would have been had the improper conduct or maladministration not occurred, while addressing systemic administrative deficiencies in the relevant organs of state, is the following. 1. The municipal manager of a eThekwini municipality must take appropriate measures to promote a safe and healthy environment at the Cleveland's hostel, and in this regard ensure A. that a database of the evicted and displaced people is compiled, and that in the event that these people cannot be returned to their allocated rooms, that suitable alternative accommodation is provided to them. B. That access control is implemented as provided for in the hostel policy. And C. That the regularization of residency is implemented as provided for in the hostel policy. 2. The municipal manager of a eThekwini municipality is to ensure that the community of the Cleveland's hostel is allowed equitable access to municipal services to which it is entitled to, and in this regard must ensure A. that refuse is collected and removed on regular basis. B. That infrastructure like damaged water and sewage pipes are repaired timelessly and where necessary replaced. C. That the hostel grounds are adequately maintained with grass veggies trimmed on regular basis. And D. That lighting both inside and outside the blocks is improved. 3. The municipal manager of a eThekwini municipality is to ensure that services to the hostel are provided in a financially and environmentally sustainable manner, and in this regard ensure that the collection of rental is implemented as provided for in the hostel policy, and trading within the hostel premises is controlled as per hostel policy. Finally, the Provincial Commissioner of the South African Police Service is to ensure that the South African Police Service meet its object to prevent, combat, and investigate crime, to maintain public order, and to protect and secure the residents of Cleveland's hostel and their property. And in this regard must A, consider the establishment of a satellite police station within the hostel premises. B, ensure that sufficient numbers of police officers are deployed to do static duties inside the hostel whenever the threat of violence is reported. C, ensure that all reported incidents of police brutality outlined in this report are referred to the IPID, and all other cases of police misconduct are thoroughly investigated. D, ensure that all serious crimes like murder and illegal evictions are investigated by the police detectives from outside the Umlazi police station in order to address perceptions of partiality. The South African Police Service must take all necessary measures to uphold the rights of the Cleveland's community to be free from all forms of violence, and in that regard, A, ensure that perpetrators of violence are arrested and brought to book. B, take all measures necessary to improve the relationship between the local police station and the residents in the hostel. The last remedial measure is that the member of the Executive Council responsible for the social development in KwaZulu-Natal is to ensure A, that the department implements the action plan referred to above, and that the head of department establishes the reasons for the department's failure to fulfill its responsibilities to the victims of Cleveland's hostel timelessly, and take appropriate action against officials found to have been responsible for the omission. The provincial head of the IPID must note that the Public Protector will monitor the investigation of the allegations of police torture and killing of Cleveland's hostel residents, and in that regard should provide the Public Protector with a copy of the IPID's final report. Thank you for your interest in our work, and thank you for the journey we've heard. Thank you to the leadership of the Public Protector team, the Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Kevin Malunga, the Chief Executive Officer, Louisa Zondo, the Chief of Staff, Bonginkosi Dlamini, Spokesperson, Khalalelo Masibi, Heads of Branches, Bona Mukhaladi, Advocate Stoffel Fourie, Advocate Nkebe Kanyane, CFO Kennedy Kaposa, and all the staff members of the Public Protector South Africa, including those that are spread in 20 offices across the country. Thank you for your commitment and making sure that we've been able to do all the things that we've been able to do. There are reports where I signed provisional reports today. One of them that I am yet to sign is a report of, it is a report that deals with an investigation that was initiated by Advocate Paul Hoffman, and it is about the so-called CX report, where it was alleged that monies that had been improperly extended to some bank were not recovered by the government, and that such failure to recover may have constituted maladministration or improper conduct. I have investigated. It has been a lengthy investigation which has included interviewing former President Thabo Mbeki, former Governor of the Reserve Bank Chris Stolz, former Governor of the Reserve Bank Tito Mboweni, former head of NIA Billy Masetla, Judge Bertelsmann, Judge Dennis Davis, and many other people. The findings that I have arrived at have been informed by all of these interviews, including an interview with the person who did the CX investigation by the name of Michael Oatley, who I interviewed in London. I will leave the provisional report. It will be sent to the parties, and the incoming Public Protector will, on receipt of responses to Section 79 notices, decide what to do with it. And on the note of the new Public Protector, congratulations to Advocate Busim Kwebane on her appointment as the new Power Protector. May she be blessed as she joins this awesome team, and may she lead it to the next level of performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Public Protector. We've now come to the question and answer session. And I have a colleague with a roving mic. He will move around the room and take questions. And we will take at least 3 at a time. Already by show of hand, we will start with the first 3 in the front row. And as usual, we ask that you introduce yourselves and tell us the media house that you represent before you ask the question.
Karen Morn from ENCA. Public Protector, I'm sure you're aware why we're here is very much fixated on the state capture investigation, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. What do you make of this very last-minute litigation that you're facing from both the President and Minister Des van Rooyen, number one? And are you in any way disappointed by the way in which they have chosen to approach this particular issue? And then secondly, the BBC is reporting sources close to your office claiming that certain cell phone records show that Minister van Rooyen was in fact at the Gupta's Saxonwold home the day before Minister Nene was fired. Can you make any comment on the veracity of those reports? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Hadra from Power FM. Firstly, on the CX report, why not release the provisional report? And secondly, on the issue of so-called state capture, I listened very carefully to your lawyer in court this morning, and I heard him say that while you would give the court your assurance as the Public Protector that you would not release the report, the reality is that there is no interdict at this moment. And I put to you that it is in the public interest that the Public Protector release the report.
Valdi Karlse from TVC News. Advocate Madonsela, I'm wondering if you believe that the President is acting in good faith. And then I want to ask you, in your 7 years, from all you've learned of the President, what one adjective would you use to describe him? And my final question is, do you believe that your successor will pursue the so-called state capture allegations with the same vigor as you have?
Perhaps let me answer the 3. Thank you, Karen Moon, for telling us that you don't like us and you don't care about our reports. We thought you were here because you care about the work we do. And then we get criticized for not putting Gogo Dlamini first. And nobody has asked a question about the reports we've released. But I do ask you, please, even if you're chasing the big ones, please say something about the reports we've released. All of them have an important aspect because some of these things are little to the rest of us, but they are the biggest fight those who are affected have ever fought. Regarding the CX report, the only reason we didn't release it was that some of the interviews, we couldn't secure them on time. It's people who are no longer in office. I think I only interviewed Chris Stolz a couple of weeks ago, and after interviewing him, he mentioned some documents relating to this matter that we had been asking from the Reserve Bank, from Treasury, and from the State Security Agency, which used to be near, and nobody had the actual agreement, not even from Judge Davis and Judge Heath. We also interviewed Judge Heath, had those agreements, and then eventually Chris Stolz gave them to us. But after we got those agreements, we still had to go back to the bank to look at whether a certain information that is referred in those agreements took place according to those agreements. It took further time to get that information. The last piece of information was received very recently, which didn't allow us to issue Section 79 notices. In fact, we just finalized the report as we were preparing to come here. That is the reason it will be signed as a provisional report, but it hasn't been seen by anyone. And the Reserve Bank gave us document regardless of the secrecy clause in the Reserve Bank Act. Right. Regarding the report that you all came for, maybe I should just answer those questions together with all of them. I don't want to comment on whether the president has good faith, is operating on the basis of good faith or not, because that would be casting aspersions on him. All I've said is we have made arrangements to meet and to proceed along the lines we'd agreed to, and on 2 occasions we didn't proceed as agreed. What happened between those agreements, only the presidency is aware. Why shouldn't I release it, given the fact that an application or a notice of intention to apply for an interdict is not an interdict? I decided not to release it because it is good practice that when persons have applied for an interdict, it doesn't make sense to make it impossible for the interdict to matter. But if I may read the order that was agreed to between our lawyers and the participants at the High Court of South Africa, Gauteng Division, Pretoria, it says the following. The present application is postponed to the 1st of November 2016 for hearing contemporaneously with the application under case number 79808/16, together with any intervention applications. 2. Pending the determination of this application in this court, A, the Public Protector's report in the investigation into complaints of improper and unethical conduct by the President and officials of state organs due to their alleged inappropriate relationship with members of the Gupta family, finalized and signed on 14th October 2016, the report will not be released by the Public Protector. So we voluntarily agreed to this agreement. B, the report shall be preserved and kept in safekeeping. No, the report shall be preserved and kept in safekeeping. 3, the following dates shall apply to the filing of pleadings, and for the DA, it is to file its application for intervention by 17 October, and all answering affidavits must be filed by the 21st of October 2016. All replying affidavits must be filed by 25 October 2016. Heads of argument, if any, must be filed by 12 on 27 October 2016. And you'll see that the dates are quite tight. But we also just want to report that Clause B says the report shall be preserved and kept in safekeeping. That is not an interim report. That is my final report. We have then given it to the Speaker of Parliament for safekeeping. Thank you.
From the gentleman behind the cameras. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Lawal Suleiman from Channels TV, Lagos, Nigeria. From all your experience in the office as public protector, what is your advice to people in your similar position across Africa, especially where democracy is not entrenched, like as in South Africa? Thank you.
Hi, man. This is Aviwe from CNBC Africa. Regarding the state capture hearing on Tuesday with the president, will you be attending yourself, or will the new public protector be attending? And then what do you plan on doing next? Thank you.
Bonte Williams from ANN7, and hello, ma'am. I understand that the question's been asked is a certain cell phone belonging to one of the people accused in your report implicated. I don't think you answered the question. And I think my own question is that he, in his affidavit, also said that he wasn't given an adequate amount of time to actually reply, and that some of the questions wouldn't be fair for him to answer. And he alleges that he only got called and informed of your subpoena only 3 days ago, and the 48 hours which was given as deadline subsequently became 12 hours. And I'm wondering, because President Zuma is saying the same thing, if that doesn't take away the shine from your report, which now is actually a final report when people say they haven't been interviewed. And also secondly, when I was in court, I found that a lot of the talk was about whether you present your report before you leave or you give to the next incoming public protector, and there seemed to be a trust deficit when it comes to crossing the Mandela Bridge there. And I'm wondering if you did discuss this with her as you were discussing the other challenges that are facing the institution, and what sort of how that discussion went. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Perhaps I should start with the first one about what is my advice to public protector-like institutions. It is really the advice I give to the investigators on all members of our team is a focus on your purpose, which is to protect the public, and make only the decisions that your conscience would allow you to make. For me, honestly, the only criticism that truly matters is the criticism that comes from my conscience. At the end of the day, it's about finding the truth and telling it the best you know how. In an effort to help government to treat its people and its people's resources properly, and learn lessons from the process, and at the same time holding the hands of people to hold their government accountable. Why do we do this? We do this to restore trust in the state, which I disagree with those that are saying the state capture investigation was not agent. This matter has created so much fracture in the executive and in the country. It was necessary for the investigation to be done, and it needed to be done fast so that any cloud is cleared. And do I doubt? No, okay, sorry. To my successor, I'm out. And that's it. Yes. Drop mic just like that. And I truly believe that we come to these positions bringing pieces of ourselves, and our success story will depend on what we've always done in your life. If you have been protecting the public in whatever way, if she has, she just has to bring pieces of herself and join with pieces of this magnificent team and focus on the purpose of this office. And that purpose is to assist government. I said to government in 2010, after the Against the Rules, that don't ask me to tell you lies, because if I do so, I will not be a good friend, because I will be allowing you to head towards a cliff when I'm telling you that the coast is clear. I have been true to that. I've never lied to government. If in the process of telling the truth, the best we knew how as me and my team, we were wrong, it was never because we intended to be wrong. That's the truth in the best way we found it. And that's the law in the best way we could interpret it, together with other prescripts. To the colleague from Nigeria, about democracy as a challenge. All right, okay, there's the cell phone issue. Maybe let's clear that. I'm not at liberty to discuss any aspect of that report. You will recall that Minister Van Rooyen's application says we can't express an opinion, a point of view, a finding, or anything about the report. Regarding the timelines, Mr. Williams, that we gave everyone, we did our best to give people what we considered reasonable timelines at the point at which we found evidence implicating them, because evidence was gathered time and again. You would find that at the beginning there was nothing about you, and we then have somebody who gives us your name, and then we have to dig into things, and then evidence comes and we want to share with you. However, Minister Van Rooyen never came to us and said, can I have more time? Let's take the president. My last discussion with the president is on record, and we've put it as part of the report. We agreed nicely after a long 4-hour discussion that we will leave the questions that the president is going to answer with the help of his lawyers, and would meet on Monday and after receiving those questions. What happened on Monday, and the next thing is I got an interdict, an application for an interdict. There wasn't him coming back and saying, I'm still not happy, even though we agreed that I will now answer the questions. When the report finally comes public, you will note that we take a view about the accountability of people who work for the state from a position of trust, that there's accountability and there's defending yourself. And accountability is about answerability. And I must say to you, members of the media, the standard I've held them to is not a different one than the one I held myself to. When my former colleague accused me of all manners of things, Parliament asked me to respond. I didn't retain a lawyer. I asked this team to answer all the questions. The human resources people prepared the human resources answer. The procurement people prepared the procurement questions. And then a smaller team, I think it was Ms. Mokhaladi and my former chief of staff, quality assured those questions, and they went to Parliament. Because all you're asked is to just tell us what you know. And that's what I did. Right. Regarding A trust deficit? No, I don't have a trust deficit with my successor. I don't know if you've perceived that there is a trust deficit from any side.
Mine was in court. People seemed to be wanting the report to be presented by you now before you were handed down by your successor after you've gone.
All right, in that case, sir, I can't answer for them. For me, it was a report I prepared based on the fact that I supervised an awesome team, but I was still part of the team, and it made sense that I write the report because I carried memory in my head. But also, it was a report that should have been completed within 30 days according to the law. And the reason it took a long time is because we didn't have the money and we had a smaller team, as many of our Executive Members Ethics Act reports have taken long. Until now we've employed somebody to focus on those matters. But again, if they are extensive like this one, you would still need quite a lot of people to look into those matters. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I wouldn't use any adjective to describe anyone. I think that would be rude or improper. I would just leave it like that. Thank you.
Move from you, ma'am, to Mr. Sempier and Ms. Labbit.
Karen Allen, BBC News. Advocate Madonsela, I know you can't talk about the current case, but just being a bit more reflective, how would you compare the efforts to challenge some of your reports through the courts by the South African leadership to the efforts to address many legitimate concerns about corruption and cronyism? My second question is, your daughter once described you as South Africa's biggest telltale. How does that feel? Is the question she asked. I don't recall you ever gave her an answer. Looking back 7 years, how does it feel, and what are your regrets?
Thank you. Aldrin Sempier from SABC TV News. Advocate, considering that you've indicated the friction that these allegations of state capture have caused within cabinet as well as within government, are you all disappointed in the decision taken by the court today in terms of when you speak about the friction, it speaks to how important it is to get to the bottom of exactly what happened and releasing the report. Are you all disappointed by this order that has now been taken, that has been handed down by the court? And when this report is now handed over to the Speaker of the National Assembly, if I'm not mistaken, that's what you said, and on the 1st of November, there's an argument around how that investigation was done. It was not done properly. What avenue would the litigants then have? Does that mean that the President as well as Des van Rooyen can only take that report on review, or does it mean that the investigation can be started all over again? The final question will be, when we had the interview on Friday, you indicated that there are 2 phases to this investigation, the state capture investigation. What posture does the first phase take, and what posture does the second phase take? What exactly is it that Advocate Mkhwebane will have to focus on in terms of what the Office of the Public Protector has agreed upon in terms of this investigation? Thank you.
Antoinette Slabbert from MoneyWeb. Advocate Madonsela, just firstly, thank you for the times that we've worked together. It was a privilege. And then I would like to ask you, the clarity that the courts gave about the binding nature of your findings, is that to a certain extent a double-edged sword in that people who are being investigated might hold you to a higher standard on procedure now, as the president has, I mean, that's the basis of his argument to a certain extent. And then I would like to ask you, many of your investigations, I suspect, focused on contraventions of the PFMA. Have you found that the Hawks are very interested in contraventions of the PFMA and that they maybe ask you information or prosecute, or, take these matters to court, as they're doing with Minister Gordhan? And lastly, the Pew report, how far is that, the Tshwane Pew matter?
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to see you, Ms. Lovett. I remember those early days when the press club used to host us. And I know you didn't chase us away. It was just some of our detractors said it hurts more when we pronounce at the press club than if we pronounce here at our own chambers. Regarding the double-edged nature of our findings, you've got it right. People immediately go into criminal justice mode because of the binding nature of our findings. But disciplinary hearings in the workplace are binding. Arbitration awards are binding until reviewed. But it boils down to the question that was asked by a colleague, I think it was from Nigeria, who asked, what do I regret? What have I learned? The one thing that I regret is that we didn't expedite the finalization of the rules. We did the rules, and then when the challenges about our powers came, we set the rules aside, even though we drafted them and consulted on them, because we needed to sort out this binding nature problem. In the process, we now have enormous power, and yet the rules are still not operational, where everyone knows what are the timelines. For example, for me, if an investigation is statutorily meant to be completed in 30 days, it can't be envisaged that the timelines for responding could be 20 days or 15 days. You would want to expect that the timelines would be expedited, especially if the answers are factual, not legal matters. But I would leave that to the court. Regarding the prioritization of the PFMA, I choose not to comment about a fellow integrity institution. I guess the institution does what it considers best. However, the point you are making indirectly is, for us integrity institutions, we have to be consistent for people to take us seriously. And I hope the colleagues are taking that note of that. The Pew investigation is at an advanced stage. We had hoped to sign a Section 79 notice before I leave. It was delayed also because of forensic aspects of the investigation. And Corinne, it's so great to see you. And yes, I remember being called a tall tale, and I didn't like that because I'm not the whistleblower. I'm the one who investigates what whistleblowers tell me. It's not the same thing. However, you asked the question about the effort put in challenging these cases. We do need to have discussions with Cabinet and with Parliament around the procedures for challenging these matters. As I've indicated, if we have a deal that this is how we're going to proceed tomorrow, It's really difficult if tomorrow I show up where we agreed you'll find me, and only when I show up do you say it's wrong that I expected you to be with me there. And I think we need to find a different way of communicating. But I do believe that if the rules are finalized, the timelines will not be an issue. One of the reasons we could not finalize the rules is because the institution is grossly understaffed, and we don't have a policy unit. We have one person for legal services who's been poached from our good governance and integrity unit. And we have multiple investigations that have been taken on review, particularly during that period when there was confusion about our powers. How do I feel as I'm leaving? I honestly feel that when the dust has settled, my fellow people from whatever organizations they come from will agree that I did what I had to do, and the Public Protector team did what it had to do. And nothing that we did detracted from our role of protecting the public from improper exercise of public power and improper use of public resources. I think when we're honest, we'll also accept that we did our best to be fair. But again, I'm leaving it to the courts of law because the jury is out on that one. Audrey, and you asked what's going to happen if, since the report is now with the Speaker of the National Assembly, when the court makes its decision, I don't know how the court is going to handle it. I have made my decision, and it is my final decision in terms of the information I had. At no stage did I ever say I would issue an interim report. I always said it would be a two-phased process. Even when we wrote to those in government, we had said it's going to be a two-phase process. And you're asking, what is the second phase? It is indicated in the report what will be phase two. And I'm not at liberty because of the litigation to indicate what have I indicated together with the assistance of the team regarding how we should proceed with getting to the truth about, is there any improper influence in the appointments of ministers and members of boards of SOEs, and is there leveraging of any relationships in the award of state contracts and other benefits from the state. I don't know if there's anything that I left. I think there isn't. Pero I did answer to say that we're at an advanced stage of the investigation. However, there were some delays in the forensic. I don't know if Deputy is leading that investigation, if you want to answer on payroll.
Thank you very much. You recall that the payroll investigation relates to the prepaid meter contracts by the city of Tshwane. So, you know, it's by its very nature a very involved investigation that involves forensics, it involves speaking to all the requisite people, and you will recall that our investigations are evidence-based. We subscribe to audi alteram partem and all other legal prescripts. So we've conducted most of the investigation, the interviews. We were derailed a bit largely by the changeover in government in Tshwane. So August, we couldn't do much. You recall, post the elections. So we still need to do our final interviews. I can't specify with whom, but the team is already at report writing stage. So I anticipate we are in October. So by mid-November, I think we should really have a draft. And then of course there is, you will recall, there is litigation currently for the AfriSake litigation. So we also had to go through reams and reams of documents from that litigation. And that's probably what's delayed us. But we also just want to give a thorough report. It's a very detailed investigation, and of course, as I said, the change in government in August meant that we couldn't really be productive for most of August. Because we had to wait for the city to reconvene and so forth. But rest assured that we've spoken to most of the people we have to speak to. Thanks.
Thank you, DPP. The CEO has reminded me that there's a question I keep forgetting to answer. Where to from here? It's back to protecting the public without being a public protector. I've always been in civil society. My entire history has been about helping people to vindicate their rights. And that I will do the best I know how, focusing on issues such as social justice, constitutionalism, and the rule of law. But that will have to wait for a whole year, because next year I'm on a sabbatical and I'm talking to one university about a possibility of joining a cause of people I refer to as has-beens, and just reflecting on what you've been doing and planning your next chapter. In the following year, which is 2018, I will be at the bar practicing law and teaching at a university, whilst working with that university to ensure center. Oh yes, the book I'll write next year when I'm busy with the husbands, because I'm sure all of us will be writing books. Deputy is reminding me about that. The other question I have not answered is, am I unhappy about the decision that has been made by the judge? No, we voluntarily entered into an agreement not to release the report because of the challenge of the interdict. Yes, we did get jurisprudence that shows that when the interdict has not been granted, nothing stops you from releasing the report. But just because sometimes we deal with underhanded people, it doesn't mean we too should be underhanded. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see the Ruby mic. I'd like to see the colleague who has the mic. All right. Okay. We'll start at the back with you, sir, and we'll come to you. Yes. And to the front. Thanks.
Hi, Joe Brock with Reuters. It's clear that the President and Mr. Van Rooyen aren't happy that they've contributed all the information that they want to, or that you haven't got the right evidence for your report, but you've submitted it. Are you satisfied that you had all the evidence to make the findings that you did in your final report, even if they're not?
Thank you for taking my questions. CD Madia from News 24. Just two very quick ones. You had a meeting today with your successor. You've had a very difficult tenure, very recently, with a lot of things being said by politicians. I think on Tuesday, you said you found some of the insults funny. What did you say to her in terms of what to expect? If she's doing her job properly, it'll cause people to become upset in some circles. What did you say she should expect? Secondly, about the Gogo Dlaminis almost, and the reports you've released today, are you worried that some of the recommendations you've put out will not be done? I mean, the Glebeland's report itself is quite concerning. What are you worried will happen going forward? Thank you.
Yes, Valerie Hirsch, BBC Africa. If I could ask Advocate some general comment about the state of democracy in South Africa, are you worried? And also, do you have any political ambition for the future?
Right, thank you. The easiest one is that I don't have political ambition. I have always been involved, though, in helping people to engage properly with democratic processes, to vindicate their rights. That I will do, but not as a public office bearer in any political organization. The state of democracy in South Africa, we have a vibrant democracy and a solid one that is based on a forward-looking constitution. We have challenges as well, particularly regarding some of the things we've promised in the constitution, because when we promise people and they can see that for some of us the promise, they can see the visible impact of the promise with those of us who are in positions of power, and some of them have to sleep without food. Some of them, being students, they have to sleep in bathrooms or toilets and in corridors of libraries. That being the case means we have a challenge to make sure that there's proper governance, to ensure that the policy priorities are informed by Section 237 of the Constitution, which says constitutional responsibilities shall be given priority. We have to make sure that corruption does not siphon resources away from those projects that seek to restore people's lives, to free their potential and improve their quality of life. And the colleague from News 24, I had a great discussion with my successor, but we will proceed next week. At that stage, she was just more concerned about the roles, responsibilities, the cases, because she's going to present my report in Parliament next week, because Parliament decided we were supposed to appear in Parliament on Wednesday, and on Tuesday night, when some of our members were already in Cape Town, we got a letter that said the appearance had been postponed to Tuesday, which then now requires the new public protector to present. And I think her priority at this stage was to get information so that she would be in the right space to present the report on Tuesday. But we will, when we find time, talk about those things that my predecessors spoke about the anecdotes about their own experiences, and that you should just focus on what you know best, because you can only be yourself and nobody can take you from you. About are we sure that the evidence that we have in the report is the right evidence? I don't want to discuss the report at this stage, because I will be going into the merits of the report that the applicants do not want me to discuss it. I would say for us, everything that we've done so far, we've sourced it in the right sources. I thought the main complaint was that people had not been given adequate time to present this side of the story. We have a view, they have a view. Ultimately, it will have to be the court that decides that. I think somebody spoke about how much time do you prepare to go to court. Without being cynical, I just wondered whether some of that time could have been spent preparing the responses to the questions we'd asked. But that's me, and it sounds cynical, and I don't wish to sound cynical. Right. I don't know if there's anything that I haven't answered. Have I forgotten anything, Sia? Thank you.
I have noticed your hands, but I would like to give the people on the other side of the room the opportunity to ask questions. Are there questions from the left-hand side? Okay. My colleague will then move to the back of the room. And we will take 3 questions from the back. Yes, we will start with you, sir, and ma'am, and the gentleman right at the back.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sam Kokeli from Bloomberg News. Advocate Madonsela, please help me. I'd hate to get this wrong. You're talking about underhanded people, and who you're referring to? I'd hate to assume that you're referring to Minister Des van Rooyen and President Jacob Zuma. Who you're referring to? Did I get it wrong? Please, could you also explain what exactly the actions you're referring to in terms of the underhanded people? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nomonde Mapetla. I'm the one whose report was read out first. All I'd like to do is just to thank Advocate Madonsela and her team for finally letting South Africa and the world know what I'd always known, i.e. that my dismissal, of course, was vexatious and all the other legal terms, but more importantly, that all those false accusations were in fact without substance, and that was actually the finding of even the audit from Deloitte that was commissioned by the EAB. And just to also mention that, by the way, I was fired first and then investigated after I'd left. Thank you very much, Advocate Madonsela, for being my David in fighting what I call my Goliath war. It may be small for people in the media, but indeed, as you correctly pointed out, these things for some of us are actually very major. Thank you so much. May this office continue to be David in our society. Thank you.
My name is Joe Tugwana from the SABC TV News. Advocate, may you please remind us the logistics of how do you normally safekeep the reports, and what is so special about this one that it has to go to Parliament for safekeeping? And actually, how safe are these safekeepings? Because I think at the beginning when you started in this office, there were reports that used to be leaked, and also people in Parliament, I'm not specifically referring to the Speaker, were implicated. Thank you.
Can we give the gentleman behind Ms. Mapetla the opportunity to ask? Okay, the last person from, because Ms. Mapetla is a complainant, so I'd like to give the opportunity to a journalist.
Natasha from the Business Day newspaper. Advocate Madonsela, I just had a question on the state capture report. This week we've seen the finance minister as well as the EFF leader Julius Malema summoned. Malema had alleged that it was because they had made submissions to your state capture probe. Are you concerned that when your report comes out that people who made submissions on the probe will be targeted? Thanks.
Thank you, colleagues. And Natasha, without going to the report, there is a provision in the report on whistleblowers, but I can't go to the specifics regarding that. I didn't know that Mr. Malema said he's been targeted because he was a witness. If that's true, I'm sorry for him. We have picked up generally as an institution that as a country we need to commit to the protection of whistleblowers, because to uncover fraud and corruption, you do need whistleblowers. Ordinary investigations without leads often lead to nowhere. It helps to have people who tell you which way to look and which hole to dig in or to dig from. Mr. Joe Tugwana, what an interesting question. about safekeeping. In the past, we've kept reports here, but at this stage, we have a report where, as PA Protector, I'm functus officio, and I've executed with finality, and we had intended to send the Speaker a copy anyway. And the agreement in court was that the report shall be preserved and kept in safekeeping. So it was mine to decide what is the best place to have this report kept safe. And because I report to the National Assembly, the Speaker of the National Assembly was the appropriate senior public functionary with whom to lodge the report. Nomonde Mapetla, thank you, Sisi, for being here and for appreciating what we did. I recently was asked, what have I found remarkable as a PA Protector? One of the things I found remarkable is that spirit of faith, that spirit of forgiveness among our complainants. Because for some of them, because of the resource constraints in the PA Protector, it takes long to finalize these reports. But I've just found that when you finally do complete it, you get letters such as the one I read when I started, and gracious comments such as the ones we've just heard from Mrs. Mapetla. And thank you, ma'am. Oh, no. Okay.
Is unanswered question?
No, I can repeat the question. I can help you with the question if you don't mind. I don't mind.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Mkokeli. Sorry, sir. Now, thank you for reminding me. I didn't mean any particular person. I was just saying that just because in society we deal with underhanded people, we don't have to be underhanded. It had really nothing to do with Mr. Van Rooyen or the president there. But I'm grateful you asked this question, because some of you may have left with that impression that I suggested, that these good people who hold positions of trust are underhanded.
Okay, we will take questions. We will start in front. It seems we'll take the last round of questions. The front row here. And one here on the floor. Yes, we will take the last 4 questions. Thank you.
My name is Susan and I'm with AFP News Agency. Advocate, early this year there were concerns about your safety after you received death threats. I'm wondering, after you leave office, are you still going to be concerned about your personal security? Are you going to take any extra measures, or you just become one of us? Secondly, I think the Nkandla report was widely considered as one of the highlights of your tenure. Do you share that view?
Thank you for taking me again. This is a question that I think only the Public Protector can answer, and I ask it because I'm reminded of Mukhweng, the Chief Justice's analogy about the Public Protector's office during the Nkandla judgment, David Goliath holding everyone, including the highest office, to account. You said during the course of this press conference that you met for hours and agreed nicely, and then you got an interdict. You also said, we had a deal, and then you showed up, and then you were told you were wrong for thinking you had a deal. Now, that seems like a reference to the president, and surely the public protector should say something. If the president sits with you for hours and you agree nicely and then does the opposite of something bizarre that makes no sense in terms of the meeting that you had. Thank you.
Thanks again for taking my question. You, when we spoke to you, said that the conduct that was under investigation in the state capture probe, if proven, would amount to criminality in terms of violation of the Corruption Act, in terms of the family implicated, and that it would potentially amount to a violation of the Executive Members Act if the president was found to have either turned a blind eye or actively assisted the Gupta family in their activities. I know you don't want to get into details in the report, but have you been able to make any finding in regard to that nexus of your investigation? And then secondly, I mean, you will always go down in history for the Nkandla judgment, which affirmed your office's independence and ability to hold government to account. But do you think that they, particularly the president, has actually learned from Nkandla? Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. It's Kaya here from Kaya FM News. Just to get a comment or two from you, ma'am. You have been very instrumental in terms of trying to get a solution in relation to the Fees Must Fall campaign. So now, as you're stepping down, will you continue further to mediate? And obviously, you also established the fund to support. So will you be handing over that to your successor? So what would be the way to do it? Thank you.
Samgelo Masayo from Jacaranda FM. Advocate Madonsela, recently at your farewell gala dinner at Kelege Estates, the Secretary General of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, said that in oftentimes you've saved the ANC from itself. And here you have Des van Rooyen, the minister, along with the president, showing intention to interdict a report of state capture, whom the ANC itself says it wants to be released. And you say you do not mention anyone with underhand tactics to derail the release of that report. What's your overall view with Mantashe seemingly contradicting members of his own party in Des van Rooyen and President Jacob Zuma? Thank you.
Thank you again, colleagues. The first question from Kaya FM. Thank you for the kind words about the Fees Must Fall. Let me just clarify, we did not establish the fund ourselves, because as the Public Protector, we can't manage people's funds. We just pledged from our social investment fund some of the funds. We pledged 15,000, and then when I got another 5,000 the following week, we've pledged 20. We then asked if civil society organizations would volunteer to manage this fund. At the moment, we've left that process with the Black Management Forum, because a lot of the pledges came when we were with them. In fact, some civil society people have been asking where should they take the money to. We haven't established who will be managed in the fund. We just said the Black Management Forum could find somebody. It is an important project there. Just because I do know that with some students, sometimes it's just 5,000 rand that they are owing. Sometimes it's 10,000 rand. Sometimes they just don't have money to register, which is 5,000 rand at the start of the year, whilst they're waiting for decisions from NSFAS or some other agency. Nothing will be too little. Once the fund is established, people can put whatever they can put in. I know one kid who said she wants to donate 500 rand. It will make a difference. My successor, I do hope that she will continue with our social investment fund, and she will obviously support causes that she feels passionate about, and the team will support her as it has supported me. Karen Moon. I can't say what findings have I made, because I'll be violating the agreement that we reached in court based on the affidavit filed by Minister Van Rooyen. And about Nkandla, it is a bit sad that that is seen as the legacy of this office. If I were to ask members of the team individually, they would tell you that's not all that we are, that our greatest glory has come when we've helped those who cannot be helped by the courts or any other structure to vindicate their rights, to restore their dignity, and to restore their hope in working within the system. But I'm not diminishing the importance of Nkandla, because it is still about the proper use of state resources for privileges of those who are entrusted with state power. Samgelo Masego, what was the question, ma'am? It would be improper for me to talk about who said what in the ANC, because we've been working so hard in the last few days. We don't know who said what, but even if we knew, it would be rude of me to comment about inter-party or intra-party perspectives. I think the party should solve those. What, as the Power Protector team, though, we were happy about was when Mr. Mantashe acknowledged and Minister Nene acknowledged that what we've been doing has been about promoting constitutional democracy by promoting good governance, and that everything that we've done has strengthened constitutional democracy. I think those words were gratifying to the team that works so hard to promote constitutional democracy. And sometimes it means standing up to me and insisting that one decision is better than the one that I'm considering. Thank you. Well, thank you. Did I forget that question? About security, yes, there were concerns. However, I've always said that, honestly, we're all going to die. It's just we never know when it's going to happen. And if it's your time to go, you will go. And only God knows. All we can pray and hope for is that we'll stay as long as possible, and that those dreams we have for adding value to humanity will be fulfilled. But that's hope. Ultimately, the decision is in God's hands. Thank you.
Before we close the session, I would like to hand over to the CEO to give us some closing remarks. Then we will move straight away to the Q&A session. Those who need to set up, the boardroom is available for use. And we will also give you copies of the executive summaries of the reports that were released today.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, just as Public Protector has stated that death is just inevitable, the end of things is also inevitable. So we come to the end of not only this session and your engagement with the public protector in this form, but we also probably come to the, following your one-on-ones, we come to the end of your engagement with the public protector in this space. And I think at this moment, it's sort of a bitter-sweet moment where we know that public protector is pleased to take a big breather, but we are quite sad to be saying goodbye to her. We are pleased, though, to be looking forward to watching her do other important things that contribute to the support and the strengthening of our constitutional democracy. We have heard that she will be going back to the space and occupying a global space where she will be continuing to promote human rights, to promote the rights of the Gogo Dlamini in a different form. And so I'd like to take this moment just to say thank you to all of you for all the support, all the interest that you have shown over the period. I personally have only been in interaction with you over just over a month, and I have experienced directly the type of support and interest that you show in the work of this institution. My colleagues and I will continue to treasure that. We will continue to commit to yourselves and to the nation that our contribution to continued support of our constitutional democracy will not waver no matter what. And that is an undertaking that we are able to give. We are able to give that undertaking to our new public protector, and we look forward to engagements with her from Monday. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again for your support. Those who are leaving will get the executive summaries of the reports on the way out of this venue. And we can start with our one-on-one interviews. Thank you.
Very interesting indeed. Good afternoon. It is now 16:32 Central African time, and those were live visuals from the Outgoing Public Protector's office, and where we've just seen, of course, Thuli Madosela making